All right, Shalom. First off, I want to start off by saying all praises, honor, and glory is due unto Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai by Shemar Kakadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Peace and mercy to the hopeful elect preaching word and truth and sincerity. I'm the brother Tazabah of the Great Millstone, Arizona camp. Lord will with another video to edify. I'm gonna label this. This is gonna be a follow up to this video I did prior. A little more information came out. I hinted at some of these points in this particular video that I did. Majority of this video was focusing on how the administration's executive orders tied in to the planned civil unrest with this current shutdown of SNAP benefits, right? How the military was already being shuffled around, how going in from early January, that all these executive orders were just basically things they put into place to use logistics to shuffle military and make them the police around the country. Now, what I want to get into is this portion of it, right? It says new reporting reveals the Trump administration cut 500 million in deliveries to food banks across the country. Food banks were expecting more than 27 million pounds of chicken, 2 million gallons of milk, 10 million pounds of dried fruit, and 67 million eggs that never arrived and went to waste instead. And this happened. This isn't no new thing he did. All right, and that's what I want to get at. I think I'll label this lesson. The prescription was pain. This isn't no new thing that he did, right? I did this, right? I went on Grok. I basically asked Grok, weren't there cutoffs? Weren't there orders put in to cut off aid for food banks back in 2024? And this is the thing right here. It says late announcements, pre-inauguration, early allocations. October 24th, Biden administration final allocations later targeted for cuts. The ongoing Biden administration announced approximately $1 billion in additional funding for food aid programs, including $500 million for local food purchase assistance, LFPA assistance program, which buys local which buys local produce for food banks, and $500 million for emergency food assistance programs via the Commodity Credit Corporation. This is how farmers made their money, was through the Commodity Credit Corporation. All right. If they knew they weren't going to meet it by just, basically getting in the field, selling to stores, finding those markets, they knew the government would buy a certain amount. That's why these farmers were bitching and complaining so much. It says these were intended to bolster food banks amid rising demand. However, these funds became immediately targeted by the reversal by the Trump team. Now it says right here, early 2025, December 2024 announced, March 2025 implemented, 1.3 billion cut to local food programs. So this is back in March. This was already done, and people, like the scriptures say, I'll get it real quick. This is Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes 9 and 12. It says, For man also knoweth not his time, as the fishes that are taken in an evil net, and as the birds that are caught in the snare, so are the sons of men snared in an evil time, when it falleth upon them suddenly. Jake never saw this shit coming. This is going back to March. Back in March, niggas was still celebrating Trump. Right? Now it says Yeah, let's keep reading. It says 1.3 billion cut to food programs building on the October allocations. The USDA confirmed in December 2024 a 1.13 billion investment for LFPA and in the local food for school cooperative agreements. That's how farmers were getting paid. They cut all that, right? Which supported food banks in schools and purchasing from local farmers. But in early March 2025, notification sent March 7th. The Trump administration abruptly terminated the 2025 funding for these epidemic-era programs, citing a return to fiscal responsible initiatives. This slashed $1 billion total, affecting distribution to 7,900 food banks and pantries. Food banks reported immediate cancellations and truckload. But all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Shemi Ashai. Back at it. It says this slashed over 1 billion total, affecting distributions to 7,900 food banks and pantries. Food banks reported immediate cancellations of truckloads of fresh produce, meat, and dairy, exacerbating shortages. You see, an additional 500 million halt to TEFAP deliveries on top of the local food cuts. USD froze 500 million of planned 500 million in planned 2025 delivery. So this stuff, this was prescribed. Pain was the prescription. Let me get it. This is Isaiah 10:1. It says, "Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and that write grievousness which they have prescribed." This was a prescribed plan. When you really go into this, it was bullet point after bullet point. It literally was bullet point after bullet point, man. This stuff is hey, this stuff is crazy. When you really look at this, devil is deviling, right? You go from making executive orders to turn the police and to turn the military into the police, and all the federal employees into local, which is supposed to be against the law, into the local law enforcement. Then you orchestrate an immigration thing, right? To be able to legally detain people without any fair or due process, right? Now you got vagrancy laws. That's another thing, man. They're implementing vagrancy laws. Let me see if I can find that video. Bro, there's so much shit going on right now. I think I put it in this. That's Homeborn Slave. No, it's not that one. They're literally bringing back vagrancy laws, man. This stuff is, this shit going crazy right now. Prophecy is speaking loud as hell. Here it is.
Look at this.
And before I play this, fair use. Under the section of the USC Act, all right, fair use is permitted for criticism, reporting, and it tips the balance in favor of fair use. Just roughly paraphrasing, I don't need to grab it. Fair use.
Look at this. Oh, perfect. Oh my.
Trump is planning to put people into intern.
I am extremely concerned that our country has to be sued to take care of its most vulnerable.
And now they've weaponized HUD, are starting to say you won't get funding if your community doesn't actively enforce these laws, which is the Cicero playbook.
I thought Ben Carson was bad, and now...
At the hearing, the Department of Justice attorney who showed up waived arguments, wouldn't even contest. They are just trying to sneak things through and hope that they don't get challenged because everybody's too busy. They passed a plan for a 1,300 person megatent camp 7 miles outside of downtown in the middle of nowhere, no public transportation, no voluntary entry or exit. They say some of these units are going to be work conditioned housing, which to me means forced labor. Still feels hyperbolic to say Trump is planning to put people into internment camps, even though he ran literally on that platform and said it outright. That's exactly what he means. What?
You see? Which is, they're really just going into vagrancy laws, man. Let me see if I can find this real quick. Right, so here it is. Ending crime and disorder on American streets. By the authority vested in me as the president, by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered, Section 1, purpose of the policy, epidemic vagrancy, disorderly behavior, sudden confrontations, and violent attacks have made our cities unsafe. The number of individuals living on the streets in the United States on a single night during the last year of the previous administration, 274,224, was the highest ever recorded. The overwhelming majority of these individuals are addicted to drugs, have mental health conditions, or both. Nearly 2/3 of the homeless individuals report having regularly used hard drugs with methamphetamines, cocaine, and opioids in their lifetimes, and an equally large share of homeless individuals reported suffering from mental health conditions. The federal government and the state have spent tens of billions of dollars on failed programs that address homelessness, but not its root cause, leaving our other citizens vulnerable to public safety threats. So now this is the implantation of vagrancy laws, man. Right? Now, what is a vagrancy law? And remember, this lesson is going into the pain was the prescription. Right? Laws post-slavery that made it illegal to be homeless, right? It says post-slavery laws known as black codes, later PIC laws, made it illegal to be homeless or unemployed, particularly for African Americans. These vagrancy statutes were used to control the black population by criminalizing unemployment and forcing them into labor contracts, which often led to fines, imprisonment, and involuntary labor under a system that continued the exploitation of slavery. Now, it's real funny. It's real funny how not too long ago, let me go on Nigga News Network because I know I saw it on there, how all these homeless people went missing in D.C., right? Because they took them off the street. Nobody knew what they did with them. And at the same time, when they took them off the street, a couple months later, you had the video come out. Where is it at? Forgive me for trying to grab this real quick. This lesson really wasn't planned. So I'm trying to grab this as I go. But there was that video recently where that Jake saw all them Israelites in that field picking crops like it was slavery. And the woman didn't say nothing to him. Where is it at, man? I gotta grab it. It's very telling that all those people went missing. You see those things with Trump putting in vagrancy laws, basically. And now this Jake says Florida man spotted elderly black people in a small town field picking peas like slaves and stopped to ask if they were all right, but he was told to leave.
Hi.
Hi.
How you doing?
Okay.
All right. Are y'all okay out here? Sure? Y'all good? Okay. How long have y'all
Why is she
been
looking
working
behind
out
her
here?
back? Why is she looking behind her back? See what I mean? Telling you this bro, the prescription was pain. That was all. That's all the shit was prescribed. They cut off the food banks, right? They cut off the food banks well before they cut off the SNAP benefits. Now, people thought they was going to line up at these food banks. And once they see that line got cut off short, bro, the type of savagery that's going to happen. Now, I'm pulling these scriptures right from the elders chat, bro. And this is what it is. This is Proverbs 13 and 23 in the NLT. It say, a poor man's farm may produce much food, but injustice sweeps it all away. And these devils have swept away all the food. This is why those farmers were dumping milk. Why they were throwing produce back in the field, because the U.S. government used to buy that, give it to the food banks, and that's how those farmers would make a profit. But because we got injustice ruling, they're sweeping that shit all away. It says in the GNT, Proverbs 13:23, unused fields could yield plenty of food for the poor, but unjust people keep them from being farmed, and that's what we've seen. Now, peep this. This is straight from the USDA, right? Senate Democrats have now voted 12 times not to fund food stamp program. It says also known as Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP. Bottom line, the well is run dry. At this time, there will be no benefits issued November 1st. We are approaching an inflection point for Senate Democrats. They can continue to hold out for health care for illegal aliens and gender mutilation procedures, or reopen the government so mothers, babies, and the most vulnerable among us can receive critical nutrition assistance. And illegals are never able to get health care. You got to have a status to be able to get health care. That's just a bold-faced lie. But the prescription was pain. All right? These devils weren't going to be looking out for Jake. Right? This is here it is. Proverbs 37 and 12. It says, the wicked plot against the just and gnash it upon him with his teeth. And that's what this is doing, man. They're literally going against all the tribes. Right? They don't care about messing up Esau in the meantime. They don't care about that. They care about causing as much pain on Jake. Right? Yahweh shall laugh at him, for he seeth that his day is coming. The wicked have drawn out the sword and bent their bow to cast down the poor and needy, to slay such as be of upright conversation. Their sword shall enter into their own heart. Their bows shall be broken. Right? They are literally just prescribing pain to the tribes. This is what it is. Bro, this stuff is getting intense. I can see how Jake is going to snap. Right? But Lord willing, it's edifying. I could have pulled out some more, but I didn't want this to be too long. So, shalom.